Here in Nigeria, thousands of persons have fled their homes and communities around the Shiroro Dam and the Zungeru hydropower dam under construction in Niger State. Water spilling from the two dams have flooded the surrounding communities, threatening their lives and worsening the flood situation in the state. The Emergency Management Agency says at least 40 persons have been killed since the flood disaster hit the state.
These children would rather be in the comfort of their own homes, but they have to make do outside at a temporary shelter to take refuge from the floods in Niger State. The shelter is Zungeru Central Primary School, now a boarding facility, while this truck doubles as a moving van. Umurani Babangida, just 7 years old, is traumatized.
The water has stopped me from going to school. Many of my siblings are still in the bush running for their life. We want the government to help us. We have lost virtually everything. We are hungry.
His father has to be strong for his son, but he can't help lamenting their current predicament.
We don't know what is very important to us at the moment, but we believe our children deserve our attention, and we are doing all we can to make them a bit comfortable. I want Umurani to go to school, but I don't know how that can be possible, seeing that I don't even have food to eat.
While a panoramic view of the dam's gushing water, its effects on Gungu community quite disheartening. The Director General, Niger State Emergency Management Agency, details how they're working to provide relief for the people.
We're already making all processes to establish a clinic, and we've already established contact. We are moving mobile toilets so that the place will be more safe.
This led to an emergency meeting of stakeholders in Mina, the Niger State capital. An official points out the need for evacuation from flood-prone areas.
All those communities downstream, Shiroro, Zungeru, River Niger, River Kaduna, to get away from the way of the water, because definitely nothing is going to stop water from devastating them.
Back in the camp, Umurani sleeps, weary from the stress. His dream, to wake up to an end to this flood disaster in Niger State.
Some former Nigerian ambassadors are calling on the government to involve citizens in the creation and implementation of foreign policies that will shape the relationship with other countries. At a public lecture in Lagos, the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria proposed what they described as citizen participation in how the country presented to the world. Our correspondent, Layo Adegoke, reports.
The foreign policy of any country consists of strategies chosen by the state to safeguard its national interests and to achieve goals within its international relations milieu. But to what extent is the average Nigerian knowledgeable of the country's foreign policy? At a public lecture held at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, the chairman of the event, Ambassador Oladapo Fafowora, highlights the need for the government to connect with the public in foreign policy formulation.
I don't think it's in the interest of our country that the public opinion should not be taken into account in the formulation of foreign policy. The time has come to create a greater awareness, public awareness about foreign policy in our country. But when it comes to foreign policy, I think the attitude of the government is that it is their exclusive preserve.
The lecture, organized by the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria, ACAN, has the chairman of the Society for International Relations Awareness, Professor Nuhu Yakub, as the guest speaker. He is of the opinion that the government needs to re-examine its practice of democracy to reflect well on the nation's foreign policy.
Yes, sometimes they have also come to the conclusion that the foreign policy is becoming too elitist, or is being handled by only the president. And indeed, you know, it's everywhere. Even in Nigeria, when we come to look at what happens in Nigeria, we discover that the head of state has a very distinct role, in fact, overbearing role to play in formulation and implementation of foreign policy.
His position is supported by former diplomats who have served in various capacities in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but others seem not to be quite convinced about the idea.
If you take foreign policy as a strategy, if you take foreign policy as a technique, if you take foreign policy as a process, if you take it as a process, why shouldn't there be democratic control?
There cannot be democratic control, but there can be democratization of foreign policy, by which I mean that all stakeholders in foreign relations, civil associations, and erudite individuals, institutions of higher learning can have an input into the formulation of foreign policy.
Either way, many think Nigeria's foreign policy should be rewritten. The focus, however, remains the point of disagreement. Layo Adegoke, Channels Television News.